Welcome along. What is going to win the Coral Gold Cup this Saturday? We need to work it out with Dan Barber and Martin Dixon. All well?
Good, yes, thank you, Niall Pavarotti. That was a very nice rendition, got me back in the mood.
Yeah, mood for Newbury?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. Before we talk Newbury, talk Haydock of the weekend. Do you enjoy the Betfair Chase?
To some extent, yeah. It was great to see, Protectorate putting it all together, a proper skeleton performance, having him ready, but the race was pretty much overshadowed, wasn't it, by a Blue Tiles performance. Saw some people saying, 12s and 10s is a massive overreaction, which you sort of could be, but I'd have rather taken 6s if he'd run second and performed with some credit. It was such a lifeless run. How do you price him up on the back of that? It feels like an impossibility to me.
It was too bad to be true. Like every jump, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, every stride he was on, if he was any way long at all, he just won in the boards, in the pop, like a horse that didn't want to stretch for whatever reason. So hopefully something will come alive. Did bomb out at Christmas last year.
I know you were worried, weren't you? Like early on in the race, we were watching it together, and you were sort of on it first circuit, saying I'm not sure he's quite right here, and clearly he wasn't. And I suppose 10s, 12s, those double figure prices, they are tempting for some people because it's the sort of price where you can take a punt, small stakes at a pretty big price, and know that you could be sat on a very good bet come March. But they're tempting you in with those sorts of odds, but clearly there's a massive question mark hanging over him after that.
It was a good field day, wasn't it? Stradix, Ferguson, obviously, it was a big crowd, there was no football on.
Yeah, it was fine.
But Protectorate, I've been really, really impressed with the Skeltons. Dan Skelton is training. No, he's setting off only a few years ago, and everything he's done, he's a little bit like his master Paul Nicholls. He runs him. He's got a plan. He's got a plan A, B. I interviewed him afterwards and for Racing TV, and he was saying, I was like, "How are you going to get to the Gold Cup?" And he was like, "I did put him in the King George, but for the simple reason, if the weather comes in and the King George is called off and they reroute the race the week after and run it at Cheltenham,"
it's clever, innit?
And you're thinking, wow, no, it's great.
I think Protectorate, his whole career profile shows you just what a good trainer Dan Skelton is. Not because he's won a Grade 1, but because if you look back at what he was 3-4 years ago.
A hot-headed little hurdler.
Exactly. Yeah. He looked a bit of a tearaway.
Yeah, I thought it was a 2-miler, I really did.
Exactly. Because he was keen, wasn't he? Yeah. And he's still got it in him. But they've managed to anchor it, train it essentially, and manage to get to the bottom of his ability, which is fantastic, and not everybody would have done.
It's the way he speaks that always strikes me as well. Like the vocabulary he's got. He's clearly a really intelligent person. The way he was phrasing it with his winner at Kempton, that impressive novice chaser that won the other day in the Cohen colours, just the thought that goes into everything. Like he's saying, a lot of people will be saying, you're going to duck the big targets at Cheltenham, but he said, we know this horse so well that we know we need to give him more time. And it's his ability to completely adapt. Not being a one-trick pony, he treats everything the same. Some trainers running them all the time without a plan. He seems to have in mind exactly what he needs to do to maximise the potential and ability of his horses. It's quite staggering when you think 2 or 3 years ago he was farming races in the summer because the aim was getting Harry to win a jockey title. Now he's sort of mixing it with Nicholls and Henderson without a turning a hair.
I think it's been unbelievable, and really, like this time last week, he could have been forgiven by saying, "I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the Many Clouds at Aintree, first week in December." He won the race 12 months ago. He was really impressive. That's where we're going to go. Thinking we can duck the Gold Cup, last year's Gold Cup winner, who's odds on to win the Betfair Chase. We can duck him and go to a race that suits us. But he was like, no. He came out and he spoke to us on the programme here last week, saying he's been away from home. He's ready. Absolutely no excuses.
The price.
I know, 3 to 1 out to 8.
Yeah, he was about like a 5 to 2 shot anti-post, wasn't he?
I think he was a short 7 to 4 anti-post.
Yeah.
So whatever caused that late market move obviously didn't manifest itself in the race, because he was absolutely A1. 3 race course gallops he'd given him up and down to make sure he's spot on. Like, think of the variation though, like a horse like Prashima, right, we're going to give him a run, Silver Trophy, then we're going for Weatherby. Molly Ollie's wishes, we're not going to go for that first run, we're going to have him bang. We're going to have a bang ready for Weatherby, no prep race required. I mean, just so skillful, isn't he?
All right, so that was glass half full, good stuff at Haydock on Saturday. Wasn't the same Martin at Ascot?
No, it wasn't. For me, Ascot sort of underlined the problems with the fixture list on the whole.
At present, with the number of horses we've got at the minute.
I just don't think the fixture list is fit for purpose. I think there are too many opportunities for higher quality horses, and this weekend, because we were kind of dependent on Constitution Hill running, Long Presse running, when they don't run and you are left with walkovers and 2-runner races and 3-runner races that just turn everybody off essentially and are completely uncompetitive. But it's because we were relying on those horses running that we were left with that position. You've got a prime example on Saturday. The 2 intermediate chases, Haydock and Ascot, are effectively for the same horses. Yeah, one of them's a grade 2, one of them's a graduation chase for less money at Haydock, but they attract the same calibre of horse over the same distance. And Hitman's prime example, he was declared for both races. And if you give horses, give connections the opportunity to duck and dive, then they will duck and dive. And I just think that there needs to be a shake-up there. And Saturday, it's probably been ongoing for a few years, but Saturday really highlighted the problem because those horses were pulled out and we effectively were left with nothing.
Times didn't suggest the ground was mega quick or anything, but so there's no smoke without fire. 45 horses are declared, 15 are taken out. Clearly was something there that they weren't happy with. I would never be so sniffy as to say, oh, racing professionals, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't study the times of races to determine what the ground is. There are other factors at play. So clearly was something the matter there, but it felt as well to me, I know it is indicative of a wider problem, but also just bad fortune that the 3 horses that we wanted to run, Edward Stone having a crack at a handicap, I mean that would have been great to see, Long Presse, an RSA winner or whatever they call it nowadays, and obviously the big gun, all being taken out, Constitution Hill, it felt just unfortunate. It was sort of like a chain reaction. Once one had gone and one high profile trainer is citing unhappiness with the conditions. I heard yesterday about Stuart Edmonds' horse came back unsound after his race, he was sore. So I do think there probably was something at play. Because we see those clips, don't we, of Ascot's chase track during the summer, and it is bone dry. It's completely dehydrated, or whatever the technical gardening phrase is. So I don't know if they have to water it more during the summer to make sure that it's not just chuck as much as you can on in the lead.
And can you do that? Can you do that with a drought, etc.?
Yeah, precisely.
The dry summer that we've had, can you just chuck water on?
Just with regards to Constitution Hill, personally, I'll be more disappointed if he doesn't run this
Saturday.
weekend in the Fighting Fifth.
What are the excuses there?
Well, there shouldn't be any excuses. In all honesty, it probably should be where Constitution Hill should be running anyway. He's the highest rated 2-mile hurdler in Britain. He's got an official rating of 170. We've got 3 Grade 1 2-mile hurdles in Britain, the Fighting Fifth, the Christmas Hurdle and the Champion Hurdle, and he should be running in all 3 of them. And I think were it not for Epatant's position in the same stable, he would be running in them. And you look back through Nicky Henderson's career, he had Landing Light in 2001 that won the Fighting Fifth and was his Champion Hurdle contender that year. He did the same with Punjabi, did the same with Binocular, who was beaten twice in the Fighting Fifth when he was his Champion Hurdle horse. Bouvedere, Epatant, and now we've got Constitution Hill. The only reason, in my opinion, that hasn't been the target anyway is because Epatant is there in the same yard. Now, I understand that, but we're now in a position where both horses have the entry.
They need a run.
The conditions are perfect for Constitution Hill. He won a Tolworth on very soft ground last year. He should be running, in my opinion.
And in addition to that, so what if Constitution Hill beats Epatant? It's not a shock. Everybody knows that Constitution Hill is significantly better than Epatant. This isn't a case of keeping owners sweet because, I don't want my other horse to kick 7 bells out of this one. I mean,
at the moment they have the entry, and let's hope that they run. Yeah. But I do believe that they should run against each other because if we see it all the time. Willie Mullins has to run in the Grade 1s in Ireland. He'll run multiple horses in them if those horses are in the yard.
Morgiana 1, 2, 3 last Sunday.
Exactly. So you just sometimes, if you're in that position where you have those elite horses within your yard, I think there's we need, as horse racing needs them to run against each other. It needs that competition in the Grade 1 races that are meant for the elite horses. We need them running against each other.
Testing ground at Newcastle really should suit Constitution Hill even more than Epatant. If she was undone when she only dead heated last season, it was because she was making hard work of it on bad ground. Whereas Constitution Hill, as Mark says, absolutely glided through the mud at Sandown. I mean, you don't see horses come up the hill like Sandown with that pace on bad ground. It just doesn't happen. That showed he was a freak, but it also showed that testing ground was, if anything, perfect for him.
So let's hope Thursday morning the right decisions made.
Yeah, have a head-to-head.
Saturday afternoon to turn up, declaring them, getting them the start. Okay, that's the fighting fifth. What's going to line up in Newbury at the weekend? The ground, hopefully there's plenty of rain around for the Coral Gold Cup. Corrick Ramble remastered towards the head of the market here. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with Corrick, just because of, certain images stick in your mind in races throughout the year. And for me, him up the Cheltenham running in that Ultima last season was one of those, God, I can't believe I was there sort of thing. It was just staggering. You don't see, he was 12th on the home turn? He surged through horses late on like it was a Nunthorpe or something. He's won by nearly 3 lengths, gone another 50 yards, he'd have won by 5 or 6. I thought it was a staggering performance, and one that for me, after a blatant pipe opener first time out over the wrong trip when you and I were at Carlisle, he's going back over the right distance and he's got a long home straight to really open up. I think if he puts it together, we are dealing with a proper 160 plus horse here.
It's a different field to this year. Obviously 24 is a max, 18 are entered. A couple more might drop aside. So I'm talking about the start of the race where it can very often be a recall, a false start, and they're jostling for position to go very quick over the first few fences. Might just be a totally different shape to this race.
And I think a different tester sometimes as well. Good ground at Newbury, we should touch on that. Mentioned the rain already at Newcastle, so it's going to be proper testing ground, I think, at Newcastle, looking at the current going and the forecast. Newbury, good ground as it stands at the moment, not much rain forecast for the rest of the week, so we're likely to be looking at good ground come the weekend as well. So the race might just be a little bit more of a speed test, less of a real stamina slog than it sometimes can be, and as you touch on, a smaller field. I wondered if it might suit Lord Accord again, who was second in the Badger Beer behind Frodon at Wincanton. Now he does have an option of potentially going to the Beecher the following week, so I don't know exactly what the plan will be there, but if he turns up, I think good ground at Newbury, in-form horse, he's on the same rating as in the Badger Beer, because the Coral Gold Cup's an early closing race, so he'll be officially well in. So I thought he was of some interest at a bigger price.
One trainer is going to be very busy, looks like Joe Tizzard. He's got 3 potential runners. Joe joins in the line. All 3 going to go, Joe?
Yeah, that's the plan now. It wasn't originally the plan. We tried to run Lost in Translation a couple of times. It went real soft at Sandown in the first veterans race, and then it went too soft for him at Warwick last week. So we always had this as a backup. As he's got older, he's a real good ground horse. So we're going to put Fred on him and claim 7 off his back, and so yeah, we will take all 3 now.
To have a word with your nephew, Freddie Ginger. He's doing really well. He's based with Paul Nicholls, is that right?
Yeah, he's full time at Paul's, which has been was been in the offing sort of from halfway through the point-to-point season last year. But it's the best thing for him, because he wasn't, he needed to go and work somewhere else, and he's been in this yard all of his life and grown up with us, and he still comes in on a Wednesday morning and rides out and things. But there's a lot of good lads at Paul's, and he's schooling most days of the week, and it's been the best thing for him.
Might it suit an old horse like Lost in Translation? Inexperienced hands, etc. Sometimes they sort of jump and run for them.
Well, he could well do. He actually schooled Lost around a point-to-point course last March, our local point-to-point, and we took him up there, and he literally ran away with Fred and stood off outside the wings at everything, like you said. And Fred got a big buzz for it. It's great of the owners to give Freddie an opportunity in this, like in a race this big, and the horse will hopefully enjoy it. He's down to a workable mark now, that's for sure. So he needs to put his best foot forward. But if he does, then he's got a chance.
Fiddlerontheroof is his shortest price. Brendan Powell be on him.
Yeah, Brendan's going to ride Fiddler. He was beat off a 150 last year, but he's knocking on the door in these big races. Ran a blinder in a Grand National, and in a minute it will click. He's been second probably too many times, but in a minute it will click, and I think there's this big pot in him. And then Harry Skelton can ride. Harry Cobden can ride.
Oscar Elite.
Oscar's Elite, yeah.
He's still unexposed, isn't he?
Yeah, he definitely is. He ran really well in the Ultima, finished 3rd, and Harry rode him, so he knows him well. But just disappointed. He wasn't quite seeing his races out last year. So he just tweaked his wind in the summer, and I was chuffed to bits with his prep run. He looked a bit big up at Wetherby. He's come off really well. Had a little canter around Newbury last week. But so the prep for him and Fiddler have been perfect. So they're both like the conditions, and it gives them both good each way chances.
And it could be a smaller field, sort of a different sort of Coral Gold Cup this year. The race we're sort of normally used to 24 hurtling down the back straight and getting a position, so it might just be a little bit different.
Yeah, slightly. I think it will be different in that sense, but it's competitive this year, mind, isn't it? It's it's even if it's a smaller field, it looks a competitive race. There's any of the top 10 have got serious chances in it. But like you said, normally you have to get out the gate and it's flat to the board over the first 3 or 4 to get your position. That might make life a little bit easier for them. But all of our horses have run in big handicaps and run in big races. They should all be able to sort of cope with that anyway.
Big race aside, Amaryllis Sky, he's also in the Newbury card. He was good at Cheltenham last time out.
Yeah, really, really pleased with him at Cheltenham. A lovely winner for John Romans, and he won well. He's also got some good form around Newbury, won around there last year. They put him up 4 for his win, and he seems to have come out of the race really well. So he'll go again. And then a couple of nice novices on Friday.
Right. What in particular?
Call the Dawn. He runs in the maiden hurdle. He ran in a good novice hurdle down at Newton Abbot, where he was second to Gin Coco of Harry's, who was second in the Great Wood, and Paul's horse that we just beat at Ascot, I forget the name, with Scarface, was 4th behind it. So it looks like that was a fairly decent novice for Newton Abbot, and we ran second on our first ever start, and seems to have improved. So hopefully he'll run a big race on Friday. I
know things, the name and the license change, whatever, but it's all still the same as it has been the last couple of years with your old man helping out. But you've had a great start to the season.
Yeah, super start to the season. Funny enough, I just saved a couple just to hit the ground rolling in May. Really, you know what it's like if you don't have a winner for the first month, people will start firing questions at you. So Dad thinks that I ruined the end of his career, but but it was worth it just to make sure that I had a few, but not expecting to have the summer we had. The horses were in rude health, and we had a cracking summer. We had a good start to the winter. So no, it's all been good. Nothing has changed in the way we train horses running back here. But the buck ends with me, so the phone calls come to me, and I got the old man there for support. Even if I don't need it, I get the advice, and if I do, he's there as well.
Good stuff. Well, three solid chances in the Coral Gold Cup Saturday. Joe, we wish you all the very best.
Cheers, Niall. Thank you.
It'd be really important, wouldn't it, if one of them could go in? 3 for Team Tizzard, but his name and his licence, he talked about his good start of the season, but to bag a big winner this side of Christmas would be good. Yeah,
and 3 marquee horses in that stable as well. What an opportunity for Freddie Gingell as well. Obviously, we're going to see more of him. He did well as an amateur last season, and great opportunity for him in a big Saturday handicap.
Fiddlerontheroof deserves one, doesn't he? I mean, he ran such a smasher last season. He gave him and Jericho Rocker almost like the same horse for Pipes, that they sort of ran in all those big handicaps, kept performing with credit, and it never quite came together with a win that deserved. But if he runs the same race as last season, he'll probably be there again. The one thing you would say, I know you mentioned it's a different shape this year, I feel it's got a bit more quality this year. And more progressive horses. You look at Correct Rambler, a Lamilos who's just starting out for Skelton. Last year, Cloudy Glen, Fiddlerontheroof, and the race Robbed have remastered when he fell at the 4th last. It probably will take an even better handicapped horse this time around than normal.
Another trainer who's got 3 entries in the Coral Gold Cup Saturday is David Pipe, who joins us now with good old remastered The Shortest Price. How are they all, David?
Yeah, they're in good form. Obviously, they had their prep at Aintree. Remastered surprised us a bit. His preparation hadn't been great, and we thought Jericho Rock would be the first finisher. So it was a pleasant surprise for Remastered to do what he did.
You go back 12 months ago, he was running a great race, wasn't he, when he came down? Was it 4 out?
Yes, he was in the process of running a good race. Obviously, that was a long way from home, and I think if you look at his runs after that, I think he probably might not have won, but he's had a wind up during the summer, and he was a strong finisher at Aintree, and we hope he'll improve for that run.
Jericho Rock, he's sort of different CVs, low mileage still, isn't he?
He is. He's only 6. He had a very good season last season. Before the Aintree race, he would have been our number 1 hope going into the Coral Cup. He disappointed a little bit at Aintree. It was his prep run, but I still was hoping for a bit more. He seems to have come out of it fine. Obviously, we haven't discussed it as yet, but the ground is another factor at Newbury the weekend. But if Jericho Rock turns up and is in the best form, then he's got to run a big race as well.
You sound like he wants plenty of rain.
They both want plenty of rain.
Yeah.
But they're getting plenty of rain, but it's not changing the ground, is it?
I know, it's just seemed like a sieve at the minute. It's just going straight through, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. I think Newbury are worried they're going to have a Ascot situation from last weekend. So they've been putting on plenty of water. All we want is safe ground, really.
Yeah. And Red Happy, obviously, he's the Fiddle of Weights. Big price, but he's going to line up as well.
He'll line up as well. Judith and Fergus Wilson like having runners in these big races. Obviously, he's got no weight. He's a big price, but you've got a chance to the lottery, haven't you? If you've got a ticket.
Absolutely. Jockey bookings, are they straightforward?
They are as they were at Aintree. That was the reason for doing that. David Noonan, the ride remastered, and Tom Scudamore, Jericho Rock.
Yeah, good stuff. It's been a while since good old Madison de Burley won it. He was a great horse.
He was, that was a great result that day. I think Tom's won it another couple of times since then. Look, I mean, obviously it's a very historic race, a prestigious race, and one we'd love to win again.
Yeah, good stuff. David, thanks for your time, and wish you all the best for all 3.
Thanks, Niall. And
a little bit like Joe Tizzard, David Pipe's having numerically a really good season.
Yeah, which makes Remastered very interesting as well, doesn't it? He didn't go on as we all thought he maybe would after the fall in last year's race. Now, maybe he just wasn't quite right after the fall, but the stable were quiet through the winter, there's no doubt. They're on track for a miles better season. They're nearly up to their numbers, number of winners from last season already this season, so they're having a fine time of it. Remastered, lower in the weights, comes into it on the back of winning the same race at Aintree that he'd run well in, but hadn't won the previous last year. So, look, he's in a good place, isn't he? And we know that the track suits him from last season. I think he was going to win the race personally. I know it was too far out to say for certain, but
I agree. I agree he would have won it last year. My thing is, just as I've said, with the performance he might have put up last year, albeit for £4 higher mark, had he won it, will the same again be quite enough this time around? I think I mentioned him on the show a few weeks ago, because that was after the Aintree race that, as Mark said, he'd won it rather than just finish place this time around. But he was about 14s or 16s then, and now you're being asked to take 6s. And I don't feel there's a lot of improvement in him, whereas that's the reason I'm quite strongly behind Correct Rambler, and I think Mark's probably strongly behind Lamilos or Lord Accord, for instance, because they've got more upside, they've got more potential to improve.
Okay, Correct for you?
Yeah.
I'll take a chance, Lord Accord, but I think Lamilos, who Dan's touched on, Dan Skelton Yard, he's a progressive young chaser, and I think over the 3 1/4 miles good ground, he's got a little bit more pace than maybe 1 or 2 of the proper stayers in the race.
Okay, that's the Coral Gold Cup this Saturday. Last Sunday, the Morgiana Hurdle took centre stage at Punchestown. While Patrick Mullins, friend of the show, did win it on his good old friend Sarja, his father did train the winner in Stateman, who put up a massive time figure. Earlier, Dave Ord caught up with him and asked him how the race developed.
So, Patrick, we saw you in action at the weekend at Punchestown on Sunday. The Morgiana, you rode Sharjah. The race was won by Stateman. How did the race ride? How good a contest do you think it was?
Yeah, we didn't hang around. It was a solid gallop. Danny, by himself in front with Saldier, with blinkers on, and very straightforward race to ride. I was obviously behind Stateman. His jumping was a little bit, a little bit scratchy at times. Sharjah jumped particularly well, and we've probably the race hasn't developed until after the second last. I was disappointed with how quickly I was beaten on Sharjah. I thought I would get past Saldier on the bridle anyway, and that hasn't happened. So I have to think maybe perhaps he needed the race, but you'd have to be taken with how Stateman, put the race to bed very quickly. Saturday had been working well. We knew he'd run well. And I suppose no matter what way you look at it, whether you're rated through the second horse rated 162, the third horse rated 161, or the fourth horse rated 147, he's about 20 lengths behind him. You know, Statement has ran to the mid 160s, so with room for improvement as well, I think.
And that sort of number marks you down as a champion hurdle horse.
It does. Now, look, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure Sharjah ran to form. I'd like to think we can improve for Christmas. But I do know, looking at Statement in the parade ring, I was thinking he looked big, and I thought, you know, I was actually hoping we might be a strip a bit fitter than him, but that wasn't the case. But to my eye, Statement looked like he had more fitness to come. So it might not have been a wow race, but I think all the numbers will add up well for him.
Patrick, we saw you in winning action in the last aboard Lecky Watson in the bumper, only to lose it in the steward's room. Was it one of those you felt you were in trouble heading into that?
No, actually, look, it's those close calls. You win some and you lose some. You know, I think the first bump came from Jamie's horse. He came in slightly on us, and funnily enough, we came out in front of the bump. I thought we were in front 100 yards out, 50 yards out, and on the line. We were linked clear after the line by the road. Definitely received worse interference and not won, or not got the race. I suppose for me it would have been different if the second horse was finishing and making ground, perhaps. But the fact that he got to the front and I got back past him, I thought we would keep the race. And I'm mulling over whether or not to appeal it. I'd always said I wouldn't because it's usually a waste of time, but we might still appeal it. We'll see.
And things haven't quite gone for him in the 2 starts, but Lecky Watson looks a really nice prospect.
He is. He's a fine, big, strong horse. He's very green. I mean, if you saw him, even, you know, he had a good look at the road the first time round and was a bit lonely out in front. Again, I think he will come on for the race, and you know, yeah, he's been unlucky twice, but yeah, no, he's a horse definitely to watch going forward.
And on Saturday we saw Kiel Crutmaker winning Chasing debut. The big rival came out, so he was long odds on. How pleased were you and the team and Paul with how we fenced?
Yeah, look, it ended up being quite a penalty kick, but what I was particularly happy with, or what we were particularly happy with, was how he jumped. You know, they went to gallop. The horse in front went a strong gallop, so that was great. Obviously, look, it was a schooling session. He got to go around on his own, very unusual in beginner chase here. But he jumped very well, much more fluid than he had in Cheltenham and Punchestown over hurdles his last couple of runs last year. So that was the positive take out of it, and it was an ideal start. And hopefully now he can go and fulfill.
Good stuff from Patrick Mullins, as always. Right, it's time for us to get stuck into a couple of horses each that are going to make appeal in the short term. Start with you, Dan.
Yeah, Cheltenham, Friday of the Paddy Power meeting, there was a good field of horses. Hermes Allen, Willie had sent one over, but there's a horse called We've All Been Caught who stood out even above those in the paddock. An absolute unit. And I was concerned he might be a bit clumsy and cumbersome, but he wasn't. He was quite agile, his jumping was fine. And he finished with loads more to give. I mean, if he doesn't win a good novice hurdle over 3 miles this season, I'd be absolutely amazed. He just physically was a complete beast.
So short-term novice hurdle, 2.5 mile?
2.5 mile plus, yeah. I mean, Hermes Allen was really good. All the talk was understandably about him, but totally different horse. I mean, We've All Been Caught would be one of the biggest powerhouses you'd ever see in a paddock. And with those, you're always worried, aren't you? Well, is he going to be agile enough? But he was. His jumping was absolutely fine.
Okay.
Yeah, 2. I've got one cut from a similar cloth, really. Physically, we saw Tamuras win at Haydock in the listed race the race that opened the card at Haydock Saturday. Big, powerful individual. Paul Nicholls trains him. I thought Haydock was probably sharp enough for him, really. He came off the bridle a little bit down the back straight, but he quickly came back on it, ended up running out an easy winner. Just really impressed with him as an individual beforehand, and then in what he did in the race itself. I think the Tolworth is the plan. He'll be a big player in that. Yeah. But it's more a horse, I think, for the whole season and maybe even next year as a chaser. He's just...
And over further. I think he'll be vulnerable as he goes up in class over 2. I think the Tolworth, obviously, it's a race... in January, heavy ground, you need a real stout stare.
Yes.
But I think after the Tolworth, wherever he goes in the spring, he'll need further, won't he?
Yeah, I think that's right. He's more a horse overall, I think, to follow.
Yeah.
I can see Nichols doing a really good job with him, getting him into high-class chases in the future. He's already a listed winner over hurdles. He looks like a potential Grade 1 horse to me. Not necessarily this season, but he could be, you know, as you say, the Tolworth's the plan. So Tamuras from Haydock on Saturday, and then Grizzly James, lower level stuff at Warwick last Wednesday, saw him run. It was before Venetia Williams had a winner. She obviously went on over the weekend to have a few winners, and I'd imagine it's going to be a stable now to follow through the next month or so. Grizzly James would be one of those horses to follow. He's dropped about £20 in the handicap since he came across from France. He ran much better at Warwick than he had done last season, and I think he'll be ready to capitalise on that reduced handicap mark.
That's your two. You've got a second?
Yeah, well, Venetia obviously had a double as well at Ludlow when I was there on Monday. But a horse, she didn't have a run in the opening race. It was won by a horse called Western Zephyr. Runner-up was Brentford Hope, who we'll all know from good flat operator that he was. But there's a horse called Gabriel's Getaway, whose form at the moment doesn't amount to a great deal. A few goes in bumpers. That was his second run over hurdles. But I was really impressed with how, having been dropped out, he got right into the mix without coming off the bridle. And then he wasn't given a hard time. He ended up finishing fourth. He's going to get a low mark. He needs one more run for a mark. So I wouldn't be backing him next time. But I reckon once he goes handicapping, Honeyball, he's the type of trainer who'll rack up a sequence with him.
Train by Anthony Honeyball.
Indeed.
Okay, there's 4 horses to keep in your tracker over the coming weeks. Right, it's time to get the best bets for the weekend. Martin Dixon.
Yeah, happy-go-lucky in the rehearsal chase at Newcastle. I think the race might cut up a little bit. It's about a 7-to-1 shot generally as we're recording this on Tuesday. Proper stayer, handles soft ground. I think that's going to be important. Looking through the entries for the rehearsal, there are a lot of them that will be stepping up in trip, or I would have some ground concerns about at the weekend. So I think as it does cut up and once decks come through, that'll materialise. Lompresse is going to be favourite. He'll be quite a warm order, but he's got a big weight to carry. Happy-go-lucky was really progressive last season for Kim Bailey. As I say, I wouldn't have any concerns about the ground conditions and the trip for him. I think he'll handle that better than most of the horses that are entered in the rehearsal, and I do think his price will contract a fair bit before the weekend.
Dan?
I'm going to go for under supervision in that Peter O'Sullivan Memorial race. You know, it's the one where Capcourse won it last year.
Yeah.
All JPs tend to wear Peter O'Sullivan silks, but I'm basing it really on more than one piece form, but particularly first time out last season under supervision. He nearly ducked out at Cheltenham, but he was giving Does He Know a proper race in that novice chase. Does He Know is now rated in the 150s under supervision, who won a Grimthorpe later on. He's returning off a mark in the mid-130s. I think he's potentially well handicapped. I think Twister will have him right for a big prize.
Good stuff, man. Hopefully both them can be brought home. We'll see you next week.